If you have seen Predator, you remember the minigun, that massive rotating barrel weapon that Jesse Ventura carries through the jungle. It became one of the most iconic movie props in action film history. And the whole thing is based on a mistake the filmmakers made on purpose. This video examines firearms strictly as historical movie props and within a film analysis context. It is not about real-world use, tactics, or instruction. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of our videos. Before we get into that mistake, you need to understand what Predator actually was when it hit theaters. Director John McTiernan created something special here. The film blended science fiction horror with the kind of explosive action that audiences loved during the Reagan era. Made for somewhere between $15 and $18 million, the movie pulled in over $98 million at the worldwide box office. That is a massive return on investment for any studio. The story follows Major Alan Dutch Schaefer and his elite rescue team as they discover something hunting them in the jungle. Something from another world entirely. Now, think about the weapons these soldiers carry throughout the film. Dutch himself uses an MP5 submachine gun with a grenade launcher mounted underneath the barrel. Other team members are equipped with M16 rifles, M60 machine guns, and various shotguns. Every single member of this squad looks completely ready for war. But there is one weapon that stands apart from all the others, one gun that you probably remember more than anything else from this movie. That gun belongs to a character named Blaine Cooper, played by Jesse Ventura. He carries something called Old Painless. This is an M134 minigun, and watching Ventura haul this massive weapon through dense jungle foliage became one of the defining images of 1980s action cinema. Later in the film, another character named Mac Elliott, played by Bill Duke, picks up the same weapon after Blaine's death. You see Old Painless in action during the guerrilla camp assault sequence and again during what fans call the jungle mowing scene. Here's where things get interesting from a film analysis perspective. The mistake everyone talks about has nothing to do with a prop malfunction or a continuity error in the traditional sense. The mistake is that a human being is carrying this weapon at all. If you notice when movies nail the details or completely miss them, this is the kind of channel to subscribe to. The M134 minigun was developed by General Electric back in the 1960s. It was designed specifically for aircraft mounting and vehicle installation. You would see these weapons attached to helicopters like the UH-1 Huey during the Vietnam War era. The gun itself weighs around 85 pounds before you even load a single round of ammunition into the feed system. It needs an external power source to operate, typically a 24-volt battery pack, providing continuous electrical current. When this thing fires at full speed, it can shoot up to 6,000 rounds per minute. Stop and think about that number for a second. 6,000 rounds every 60 seconds. That is 100 bullets per second leaving the barrel. The recoil force generated by that rate of fire is comparable to the torque produced by a small car engine running at high speed. Military specifications require this weapon to be mounted on a vehicle or secured to a tripod for stability. The idea of a single soldier carrying it through rough jungle terrain while also hauling ammunition is physically impossible, and the ammunition question creates even more problems from a realism standpoint. In Predator, Blaine carries his ammo in a backpack worn on his back. That pack holds somewhere between 500 and 550 rounds total. Sounds like a lot until you do the math. At the actual firing rate of an M134, that entire supply would be gone in roughly 5 to 6 seconds of continuous fire. The extended bursts shown in the movie would drain that ammo pack almost instantly in real combat conditions. So how did the production team make this work on screen? The prop department at Stembridge Gun Rentals built a custom version of the M134 specifically for this film. Stembridge had been providing weapons for Hollywood productions for decades, and they understood exactly what filmmakers needed. The first major modification reduced the firing rate dramatically. Instead of shooting at 6,000 rounds per minute, the movie version fired at somewhere between 1,200 and 1,250 rounds per minute. That is roughly 1/5 of the standard operational speed. This change served two important purposes. First, it allowed the rotating barrels to be visible on camera for dramatic effect. At full speed, the rotation would just look like a blur that you could not even appreciate visually. Second, the slower rate meant that blank rounds, which are necessary for safe filming, could cycle through the mechanism properly without jamming. The technical setup required for Ventura to carry this weapon involved hidden electrical cables running down his pant leg. These cables connected to batteries positioned off camera where viewers would not see them. If you go back and watch the film closely, you can actually spot the trailing wires in some shots at the edges of the frame. A custom harness system distributed the weight across Ventura's shoulders and back so he could physically manage carrying the prop. The crew installed an M60 handguard mounted backwards to give him something solid to grip. The rear section used a Y-frame configuration with an M16-style carry handle for additional control. Safety modifications were absolutely essential for production. The trigger mechanism was disabled in all non-firing scenes to prevent any accidental discharge. Ammunition was fed from an M23 box mounted on an Alice pack frame worn on Ventura's back. For continuity between shots, the ammo box had to be inverted and repositioned during walking scenes, because otherwise it would be obvious that the container was empty. Jesse Ventura, who served as a Navy SEAL before his acting career began, described the experience of firing this prop as being similar to shooting a chainsaw. The weight and mechanical vibration limited how long each take could last. Here's something else the film glosses over entirely. When you fire even blank ammunition through a weapon like this, you eject thousands of shell casings. The brass would pile up around the shooter incredibly fast. Within seconds, a real operator would be standing knee-deep in spent casings covering the ground around them. None of this appears anywhere in Predator. The power cables vanish between firing and non-firing shots with no explanation. There is a scene where Blaine twists the barrels to ready the weapon for combat. With actual ammunition loaded, that motion would discharge rounds immediately. When the Predator kills Blaine with an energy blast, the impact should realistically have detonated his ammunition pack on his back. That would render the gun completely useless for Mac to pick up later in the film. These details were sacrificed for the story the filmmakers wanted to tell. The jungle shooting locations in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, created their own challenges for everyone involved. Schwarzenegger later recalled that the terrain was absolutely brutal on the cast and crew. Steep hills forced actors to position themselves awkwardly with one leg up and one leg down constantly throughout filming. Heat caused serious dehydration problems for everyone working long days in those conditions. Director John McTiernan has spoken about this weapon extensively in interviews over the years. He openly acknowledged that the handheld minigun is ridiculous. His explanation goes like this: the Gatling gun-style weapon belongs on helicopters. Nobody has ever actually carried one by hand in real military operations anywhere. The version in the film runs at quarter speed just so audiences can watch the barrels spin visibly. At full operational speed, the rotation would be invisible to the human eye. And even someone with Jesse Ventura's impressive physical build could only carry about 2 seconds worth of ammunition realistically. The shell casings would bury him up to his knees within 10 seconds. McTiernan knew all of this completely. He made the creative choice anyway because it was fun. There is a fascinating story behind why this specific scene exists at all. McTiernan created the jungle mowing sequence partly as a response to pressure from studio executives. A junior executive at Fox kept sending notes demanding more gunshots in the film, more close-ups of barrels firing dramatically, more smoke and spectacle. McTiernan found this obsession with what he called gun pornography to be distasteful and repugnant. His solution was brilliantly subversive. He decided to give the studio exactly what they asked for, but taken to such an extreme that it would expose the absurdity of the request itself. The 5-minute sequence where the entire team unloads every weapon they have into the jungle was designed to end all gun scenes permanently. McTiernan wanted audiences to get so much firearm spectacle that they would be satisfied completely. The key detail that often gets overlooked is what this scene actually accomplishes narratively. After thousands of rounds tear through the trees and vegetation, the characters discover they hit nothing at all. As one soldier named Pancho observes, all that firepower achieved absolutely zero results against their invisible alien enemy. The crew brought different perspectives to this creative choice during production. Military advisor Gary Goldman trained the cast in realistic tactical movements and positioning. He pushed for authenticity in how the actors handled themselves physically, but the minigun defied everything he taught about practical combat operations entirely. Producer Joel Silver wanted spectacle above realism. He convinced McTiernan to keep certain second unit footage from the guerrilla ambush, even though it had what the director called a stuntman-style look to it. Sound supervisor David Stone made critical decisions about how Old Painless would be heard by audiences watching the finished film. The actual audio recorded on set had a raspy quality that Stone described as sounding like a leaf blower. That would never work for a weapon meant to intimidate both characters and viewers. Stone layered deeper, more modulated gunfire sounds over the original recordings carefully. He added the distinctive metal lathe spinning noise for the cylinder rotation. This audio design made the minigun feel threatening and powerful in ways the real sound could never achieve. You can trace the influence of this creative mistake through decades of film and video game history. The exact same prop used in Predator appeared again 4 years later in Terminator 2: Judgment Day. The crew modified it with a chainsaw grip for Schwarzenegger's T-800 character. If you have seen that movie, you watch the same physical weapon that Ventura carried years earlier. The handheld minigun trope spread throughout action cinema rapidly. The Expendables 3 featured similar weapons in 2014. Captain America: The Winter Soldier used the same visual language that same year. Fast and Furious 7 continued the tradition in 2015. If you have played video games in the last few decades, you have almost certainly wielded some version of this weapon yourself. Aliens vs. Predator in 1999 gave players minigun-style weapons. Predator Hunting Grounds in 2020 let fans carry their own version of Old Painless. American audiences responded to this weapon in complex ways over the years. There is genuine fascination with the firepower it represents, mixed with ironic appreciation for how over-the-top it appears on screen. Parody shows like Family Guy have referenced it directly multiple times. Internet memes featuring Old Painless and phrases from the film continue circulating decades after the original release. You've probably seen them, even if you did not know where they came from. Shane Black, who played the character Hawkins in the film, has commented on this phenomenon publicly. He acknowledged that the weapon makes no sense from a logistics standpoint, but looks incredibly impressive on camera. That tension between reality and spectacle defines the legacy of this prop entirely. Other weapon-related details from Predator have been cataloged by fans and film historians extensively. Blank firing adapters, which appear as small red cones in gun muzzles, are visible in certain shots throughout the film. You can spot them on Mac's M60 and Billy's M16 if you look closely. Real military operations would never use these devices because they only exist for safely firing blanks on film sets. Nobody reloads a weapon during the extended firefight sequences, despite firing what would realistically be thousands of rounds. In one shot, Dutch ejects a magazine faster than physically possible, creating a minor continuity error. Trees in the background fall before bullets would actually reach them. These details have fueled online discussions and movie mistake compilations for years. Fans generally view these goofs as part of what makes Predator entertaining rather than flaws that diminish the experience. McTiernan has expressed mixed feelings about the cultural legacy of his gun scene over time. He thought by making something so excessive and ultimately ineffective against the alien threat, he was commenting on the futility of overwhelming firepower. He believed he was morally off the hook for any glorification of weapons. Then producer Joel Silver put similar sequences in the Matrix films and other projects. The ironic commentary became sincere celebration. The minigun roar that David Stone designed remains a staple in remix culture and fan tributes today. Blaine's character, with his memorably defiant attitude about not having time to bleed, embodies the specific kind of toughness that defined 1980s action heroes perfectly. The gun became inseparable from that persona in cultural memory. What started as a ridiculous creative liberty transformed into something truly legendary. The filmmakers knew they were breaking the rules of physics and military reality completely. They did it anyway, because movies operate by different rules than the real world. Sometimes the most memorable moments come from decisions that make no logical sense but feel absolutely right on screen. Old Painless could never work in actual combat, but in the world of Predator, it works perfectly. That is the power of this tiny mistake. It elevated a good action movie into an iconic piece of American cinema history. 38 years later, people still talk about that gun constantly. They still reference it. They still imitate it. All because someone decided that reality was less important than creating something you would never forget.